How's things, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat for you. Joining me today all the way from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Folks, this cat needs no introduction. He is a visionary and the founder and CEO of Hostage Tape, Alex Neist. Alex, how we doing today, baby?
Nick, it is great to be here. And we were saying earlier, I think the last time that I was in Nashville was 20 years ago. So I am there in spirit through Zoom today.
My man. Well, look, listen, this city has changed quite a bit in 20 years, let me tell you.
I think you said it was Nash Vegas. I'd never heard that before. So if it's like anything like Las Vegas, I mean, I think we need to make it there soon.
Absolutely, man. And when you do, we'll chop it up in person and have some fun, man. But dude, I'm so excited to have you today. I got so many, congratulations on all your success, and I've got so many great questions. It's such a great story, and I can't wait to hear it, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to get into it. It's a story that I love talking about just because it's such a personal story. Like everything that I've ever created, I create something that's very close to me, that has a lot of passion, a lot of purpose. And so I love diving into it, talking shop.
My man. Well, listen, we're going to get right into it. All right. So I got to know because first of all, I love the product. Okay. So all of us are consumers here. And it's thanks to our friend Andy Elliott who introduced us to it. But I got to know the name Hostage Tape. All right. Tell me that story because I'm sure it's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm sure right now everybody watching and listening is thinking, why the hell would you call it Hostage Tape? Right? It's such a crazy name. It's such a polarizing name that it just short circuits people when they see that. And the short answer to that question is that's why I picked it. Is because I knew that in this day and age, that attention was the currency that we needed to lean in on. Right? If I'm going to launch an e-commerce brand, I need to get people's attention. And Hostage Tape, the word hostage, it's such a polarizing word that I knew that it was going to get people's attention and it was going to be a scroll stopper, right? But here's the longer version of the story. So really 6-7 years ago, before I started this brand, I had another business. I was a successful software entrepreneur. We were doing millions of dollars a year. I had my wife, I had my kids, house, cars, we had all of it. And within a few years, everything came crashing down. And my wife and I got divorced.
Oh.
I sold my business for a job I hated. And when you're going through a divorce, if anybody has ever gone through that, you know that all your assets freeze, you can't do anything. So we sold the house and I had to live in my aunt's basement, right? Because of that, you can't really do anything. So I'm living in my aunt's basement, having this rock bottom moment, thinking, what am I going to do with myself? Right? And so I'd sold this company that I'd started. I ran it for 16 years. So it was my first baby and it was in sports video analytics. And so I was working for that company and I was vesting equity out. And so I'm thinking all right, what do I need to do as a man, as a father, as a husband to improve, to get better? And I started with my sleep because for years I slept in separate bedrooms than my wife because when you snore as bad as I snore, it just sounds like a freight train.
Yeah. Right.
And many people out there right now, they're experiencing that. Somebody's snoring so bad that they sleep in separate bedrooms and you think it's normal, you deal with it, you laugh about it, but it's not funny. It's really not funny and it's not normal.
That's right.
And it's not something that we should be doing. We should be sleeping together, right? There's an intimacy there with that. And so that really drove this wedge between us that this really spiraled out of control. And so it was from there that I went, okay, let me start with my sleep. And like most men, you have this attitude of I'm not going to go see a doctor. I'll figure it out. None of us ever want to go in and see a medical professional, especially in this day and age too. I think we have a lot of distrust for, medical doctors in general. And it's ironic because I come from a doctor's family. My dad was a doctor. So I grew up in a doctor's office. And it's ironic that even I feel that way. I think there's a general consensus that just a lot of people feel a little bit I'll figure it out and deal with it. And so I started to go online and went on Amazon and I'm like, all right, how do I stop snoring? And you buy the pillows, you buy the mouth guards, all these different things that don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept going, and I kept digging down this rabbit hole where I then discovered this article. And this article talked about an experiment where they plugged their nose for 10 days. They went into Stanford Medical Center and they anecdotally recorded how they felt, as well as the doctors. And over those 10 days, they snored like crazy, had sleep apnea, their blood oxygen went through the floor. And then after those 10 days, they unplugged their nose, they mouth taped. And what do you think happened after one day? Everything went away.
Wow.
So for me, the light bulb went off in my head, and I'm thinking, hold on. I've been an athlete my whole life, right? As you can see by the jerseys on my wall here. And like you, how have my coaches never taught me the dangers of mouth breathing and the benefits of nose breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really that simple. So when I went on and I went to Amazon, and I'm like, all right, mouth tape. Like at the time, there wasn't really anything you could find. You just had to look for some kind of tape that you could use, surgical tape, skin tape, like, micropore tape, whatever it was. And you get it. And I'll never forget the first thought that I had, and we were talking about this before off air, was everybody has the same thought. Before you put mouth tape on for the first time, you go, wait a minute. What if my nose stuffs up? Am I going to die?
Yeah.
Is there a chance that I'm not going to make it through the night if I put tape over my mouth? And I'm like, no, I'll be fine. Like, my nose is meant for breathing. Like, I'll be fine. So I put it on my mouth. When I woke up the next day, I felt like my 15-year-old son. I couldn't believe the amount of energy I had. It was life-changing and jolting. Because if you get poor sleep, it stacks. It gets worse and worse and worse. And then when you finally get great sleep, you can't believe how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in that moment that I knew this is it. I've discovered something that was life-changing. It was so simple. But was there a market for this? Was there actually something here with enough of a moat that I could build a product around, a business around?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been listening to a bunch of other podcasts, and there's a guy by the name of Moise Ali. He's famous for founding this deodorant brand called Native. And he famously would talk about this idea of when you go into Target and you walk down the aisles, and if you see a wall of white, there's an opportunity there. Okay? The opportunity is that there's a big enough market, and the opportunity is creating a product that stands out, that's different, that gets people's attention. And I was also really into Liquid Death.
Love Liquid Death.
What Mike and those guys did with Liquid Death is brilliant. They took the biggest commodity on the planet, they created a brand around it, and they made it cool.
Yes.
Right? So I went, that's it. And at the time, I didn't know I was going to call it hostage tape until when my kids would sleep over at my house and I was mouth taping. If they were coming into the room, I used to say, hey, I'm going to warn you guys, if you come into the room, don't freak out. I'm going to be wearing tape on my mouth that's going to look like I'm being held hostage. Okay.
Got it.
Because if you've ever seen somebody wearing mouth tape before, it's really quite a scene. And you're like, you look ridiculous, right? You can't believe what you're seeing. So then that was when I realized, wait a minute, that's it. So there's a double-sided coin to this, right? On the one side, yes, you do kind of look like you're being held hostage because you're wearing tape on your mouth. But on the other side of it was the real genius. It's people feel held hostage by poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do.
There it is.
So don't let bad sleep hold you hostage. That was the emotional hook that we were like, that's it. So we leaned into that, knowing that you're going to scroll through Instagram, you're going to scroll through Facebook, you're going to see hostage, you're going to stop and go, what is this? And it's going to be polarizing. Great brands are polarizing. They get your attention. You either love them or you hate them. Right? So that's where hostage tape was born.
Yeah. Disruptive marketing, regardless, you have an opinion, right? You have an opinion about that brand. That's what it's all about, right? Reaching everybody.
Exactly.
I love it, dude. Dude, that's a hell of a story, man. That's incredible. All right, so literally the timing of this episode is crazy. Because I was just telling you before when I got back from when we were shooting this, I just got back from Tacoma, and it's been one of those things where I got some little bug, mostly caused from fatigue, but like all this my nasal area has been clogged up like crazy, so now my throat's all scratchy, and everybody can hear it today because I've been sleeping with my mouth open all night. It's horrible. It's horrible. I woke up 47 times a night minimum, which means I woke up my wife 47 times a night. And again, it wasn't good sleep at all, right? So the mouth tape, is that the flagship product?
Yeah. So the mouth tape is here. I'll show you. So this is our mouth tape. This is the hero product. Most people know us for this. This is where we make all of our revenue off that. Absolutely. It's keeping the mouth shut at night because we shouldn't be breathing through our mouth. We should be breathing through our nose.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So walk me through, like, I can imagine going into a space that is that there's the other companies you're competing against are massive. All right, they're in healthcare. They've been there a long time. It's really hard to crack in to that industry, right? So I'm sure you had to lean on a lot of science and stuff like that. Kind of walk me through that journey as far as like as far as like any IP or anything like that you developed along the way with that.
Well, okay. So believe it or not, the mouth tape market, it's actually not as big as you think because it's almost non-existent, at least up until now.
Right.
Right. So this concept of mouth tape, as we understand it now, didn't exist in retail. Like you can't walk into a Target or Walmart and go, "Hey, can you point me to the mouth tape?" Like It doesn't exist. Right. It's not there. Now, there are things in the store you could buy and then use as mouth tape. It may not work as great, but so that was the challenge, is going up against these companies like 3M. 3M is really the largest producer of adhesives, right? Adhesive tapes in the world. So if anything, like if you want to talk a giant, we're going up against them who sell adhesive tapes that you could go to the pharmacy and buy. But let's be honest. No 3M tape inspires a man to go to the store, pick it up, and put it on their mouth. That's just not inspiring. There's not a story there. It doesn't make anybody want to do that. So that was what I understood was everything we were doing was about brand. It wasn't about creating something that I could get a patent on, because at the end of the day, like there's way too many things, like again, liquid death, where you can't patent water. You can't patent anything about what they're doing other than just trademarking the brand.
Yeah.
So this really comes down to creating a great product that's solving a problem that has an amazing brand.
Yes.
That at the end of the day was what we were going to create. So yes, there's IP that we own around the trademark of all of our names, the word hostage, all of that. There's a few product IP things that we do own that nobody can do. But generally, like anybody can take tape, sell tape, do something with it. But it was all about the brand, this brand that we created. And we were the first company to really go out, create this brand in a fun way, an interesting way that actually was marketed towards men who are most of this market that need it, and spend as much money as we did on marketing and Facebook. That really, I think, helped blow the category up. Now, I'll say this. I think that with the rise of James Nestor in his book, Breath, as well as people like Dr. Andrew Huberman, he talks about mouth tape all the time, and his rise, people like that helped solidify that what we were doing was legitimate, because we would always point back to those people like, hey, look at these people that you all know, you read, you listen to.
Yeah.
They're talking about mouth tape too. And guess what? We've created the perfect mouth tape product for men that works great with beards, facial hair. It's cool. You're going to love it. And we're the first ones who did it. And then we really jumped out of the gate and we've spent a ton of time and money building that brand. And so if anything, that's our moat. Our moat is the brand we've created, and now all of the relationships and the people around us, that everywhere you look and you see it, you're seeing Joe Rogan talk about a hostage tape. You're seeing Andy Elliott, right? Every once in a while, Maybe you see Brad. Brad doesn't use it, but he's talked about it. He's had me on the pod, and just countless other people that people are paying it. Gary Brecka. Gary Brecka is a huge hostage taper, right? So just countless people that now you're seeing us be reinforced to them.
Absolutely. I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. Talk to me a little bit about how, obviously you're wearing the nasal strip today, right? So one of the biggest things, biggest catastrophes in business is when you have a great product and you get it into the hands of the consumer, they don't know how to use it, which means they don't have a great experience and they don't end up being a long-term customer, right? So obviously the mouth tape and the nose tape have two different applications, right? And the mouth tape can be worn other than just sleeping, right?
Yeah. So there's actually a lot of people, they'll wear it when they do a workout and go for a run. Because again, this concept of mouth breathing and nose breathing, it's still very foreign to a lot of people right now. Like if you've ever gone and done yoga, right? In yoga, they teach you to keep your mouth shut and to breathe through your nose, right? But in the general public, we've lost that. And so a lot of people now, they're embracing hostage tape during a workout, right? Because most of our workouts, we should be focusing on keeping our mouth shut and nose breathing, not huffing and puffing with our mouth. And we can get into that later and talk about why that matters and why it's better for you, because most people right now are still thinking, it doesn't matter though. What does it matter? I can get more air in through my mouth, right? So we'll cover that. But absolutely.
I love it. So I want to talk a little bit about the like those jerseys on the wall with your name on them, right? So I got a couple of those, maybe not as high profile of teams, but it's a great story, and that makes me know that you know how to win, right? Which is why you're winning in business, because you achieved that level of probably the top less than 1% in the country or in the world in your sport, right? So I don't know anything about this, folks. It's the first time I'm hearing about it too. Talk to me a little bit about that football journey, baby.
Yeah. So my first love was football. And I'll tell you a story. When I think I was 11 or 12 years old, I was at a birthday party and they had handed out packs of Topps football cards to everybody. It was like our little birthday gift. And at the time, I wasn't a football kid. My dad really didn't watch football. Like it just wasn't part of who we were. My dad really wasn't a football player. So it wasn't a part of my DNA and my culture, what I was exposed to. But I was exposed to this pack of Topps football cards. And the very last card that I pulled out was a Joe Montana card. Joe Montana is one of the most well-known quarterbacks in history. Before Tom Brady, he would have been considered the GOAT.
Yep.
Now I think it's very clear Tom Brady's the GOAT. But I mean, even Tom Brady will tell you he looked up to Joe, right? Because he grew up in the area. And I got this card, and everybody around the table was like, "Oh my God, you got Joe Montana. He's the best quarterback in the league." And when they said that, I looked at this card and I was like, just drawn to what he represented and who he was. And I wanted to be that. So then from then on, I dedicated probably the next 20 years of my life to be the best quarterback that I could be.
Got it. So you were a QB.
Went on, and the story of my life was I was always that guy who nobody ever thought was going to be the guy or going to do that thing. So I always had a chip on my shoulder. I was always undersized. I was never the person people thought. So going into high school, we had a really good team in southern Minnesota, and nobody thought I was going to be the starting quarterback, right? But I knew. I was the only person in the whole school that knew that Alex Neist was going to be the starting quarterback.
That's it.
From high school. And I would practice every day. And now here's the key, right? The key to this whole thing is what my mom taught me, was that you can do anything in life. You just have to be willing to do the work to do it. And I would go out and I would literally throw the ball 4 or 5 hours every day out in the yard. So much to the point where my dad would get upset that I was ruining all the trees because I would throw balls at the trees, that he built me this net out in the pastures. Then I would just go and throw into the net for 5 hours every day. So it was that dedication and just consistency of hard work that my junior year, Alex Neist was named the starting quarterback of the football team. Nobody saw that coming. Started the first game, never looked back. Went to state both years. Then, into my senior year, what he thought I was going to play college ball. But I knew. So then I went on and I played. This is the University of Minnesota. Now, I didn't start, but I was a backup. But still, like, I went on and I played college football and went throughout my career, and I still knew I could play. So I then went on and I played arena football. And it was at that point that if you've ever followed football, you know the story Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner's probably one of the greatest Cinderella stories in sports and football history.
Absolutely.
This guy came out of nowhere, was a fifth-year starter in Northern Iowa, right? Nothing happened. He tried to go to Green Bay. He was like a fifth quarterback on the depth chart. You know, nobody took the guy serious. He got cut. And then Jim Foster came to him and said, I want you to come play for me for the Iowa Barnstormers of the Arena Football League. And he was like, no way, this is a waste of my time. But then he realized, well, any chance to play and get tape is better than nothing.
Yep.
So he went, he played, killed it, got his chance to go into St. Louis Rams camp. Trent Green goes down. He gets named the starting quarterback, and then the rest is history. Now he's a Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback. Incredible. And I wanted to be that. I wanted to be just like that. So any quarterback from my era that knew that story wanted to be able to play arena football, and that didn't get into the NFL, to work his way up to get that chance to play. And so I played arena football for about 5 or 6 years, and it was the tail end of my career around 2006, 2007, where I'm like, okay, this isn't quite going to end up like I'd hoped, but that's okay. How do I take this, right, and turn it into another direction that I can be successful on, right? Because again, that was a skill that I was always really good at, was how do I take the cards I've been given and do something with it and be successful in another direction, right? That nobody maybe saw coming. So I started a company out of it from there, and then ran that for 16 years. But yeah, man, everything that I am today, who I am, the entrepreneur, the business leader, all of it was from all the years of being an athlete, right? Especially in football, where, you know, so much of, well, even baseball, right? Football and baseball are similar in the idea that you fail and fail and fail so much that if you don't learn from failure and tweak, then you ain't going to be successful. That's right. It's your ability to fail and learn from failure and adjust that makes you a great player.
Yep. That's exactly right, man. Dude, well, congratulations on that. Just for fun, all right? So, and I usually don't ask a question that I wouldn't be comfortable answering myself, right? So, if you got a young lady across the table, and I'm like, "How old are you?" Right? I'd let her know I'm 43 before I ask her that. So, my playing weight, all right, 6 foot 210. I was one of the smaller guys in professional baseball. What was your playing weight?
I was 6 foot 195.
6 foot 195. Gotcha. So yeah, you were
195, which is undersized for a quarterback, right? So you look at most quarterbacks and you're like, oh, you at least got to be 6'2", 6'3", right? You know, 220, like a lot of these guys now. But that was why I played arena football, and I was really good at it. Was because for my style of play, right? It wasn't running around making plays, like Michael Vick or, you know, Lamar Jackson. It was actually being able to see the field, understand what I've got in front of me, do a lot of what Tom Brady did. Tom Brady was great not because he was a great athlete. He was not a great athlete. He was great because he understood the game better than anybody, and he was able to get the ball out, right? Manage the game better than anybody, right? From his mind rather than his skills, and that was what I was really good at.
It was I didn't realize I'm still learning lessons from the game, which is it's like baseball was the greatest teacher that I had, right? So it taught me how to overcome failure, how to be a team player, and like literally endless other lessons along the way. However, once we got technically in the college levels, but at the professional level, I didn't actually understand it was a business. It was still it was still a game to me. And had I know what I know now, my career could have been totally different, because as a player, strength, speed, all those things, I held my own. And as I was a catcher, right? So just like as a quarterback, you control everything. All right, you feel me? So, and that was my thing. However, how to navigate my way through the system, right? How to defend a spot that I believed was mine or whatever else. I got to play a long time because I was a good teammate, right? Everybody liked me in the clubhouse. They kept me around even when they maybe shouldn't have. But what would have been different if I'd have said, hey, Skip, I should be in there, man. Let's talk about this. This is my spot, right? But I just kind of just let it go. I just did what I was asked. And that was kind of my story. Looking back as a business guy, like I learned, I never got the date I didn't ask for. I never got the deal I didn't ask for. I didn't ask for enough things as a player. When you look back at your career, like what are some lessons you're still learning from your football career in business today?
The biggest lesson that I learned that I regret is I was not coachable at all. Which makes sense if you think about like being a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. Like, of course, he's the guy. You're not going to coach him and try to tell him what to do, because he's got that kind of a mind that he doesn't want to be told what to do. Right. Right. But I would say that I could have done a much better job of actually being coachable, because being a coach now, I was a coach for 15 years, and then I retired from coaching with my businesses. And now I finally got back into it because my son is now 15. And so in fact, we've got practice here later today.
Same.
Now that I'm, so now that I'm back into coaching and anyways, being a coach, as a coach that the kids that are coachable, you love coaching those kids, and you're going to give them more opportunities than the kids who aren't coachable.
Yes.
Like, period.
Yes.
And I wish that I would have understood that concept more and not fought coaches so much, but been way more coachable, because with how good I was, and if I had been more coachable, I would have had more opportunity that it felt like I didn't have opportunity, and I was always fighting for opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So, like, when it comes to, I coach, my son's 15. This is crazy, dude. My son's 15, and I've been coaching his travel baseball team since they were 4 years old, right? So it's just a part of our life. My dad did it. That's just a part of our family. It's funny. I tell all the players all the time, I'm like, guys, I probably shouldn't say this, but you need to hear it. Like, I like some of you more than others. It's just like, there's you don't like everybody the same. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of that is based on you. Just like I don't make out the lineup card, you do. I just write down what your actions were. You know what I'm saying? How you do those things. So, dude, being coachable and being somebody that is attractive, especially to somebody that is investing time and effort and knowledge into you, is incredibly important. And that's something that when you can master that and you can take that into the workplace, you can change a lot of lives, right?
Yeah, totally.
All right. So, you went so. All right, I got a quote for you. I want to get your take on it. And this is one of my favorite quotes ever. And you've probably never heard it before, but my buddy Hunter Bledsoe is a sports agent, has a bunch of big leaguers in the major leagues right now. But he said something. We coached a team together, and he told our kids something this at 11 years old, and it literally was one of the most profound things I've ever heard. He said, "Life is fair. Everybody's price is just different."
Yep.
And I was like, right? So give me your take on that quote before we get more into your journey.
Well, I think, a lot of people want to sit and say life isn't fair, right? People want to complain about it. But life and opportunity is what you make of it. And you have to see your life and your journey as, what do I have control of that I can have a bias for action? Right. In fact, I was just telling my team this today about having a high agency, right, rather than be low agency. And so it's having high agency of your life, taking action and understanding that you have control over your life. Everybody has the same I mean, within reason here, right? In America, everybody for the most part has the same opportunity to be able to do something amazing with their life. And now that's relative. What I might think is amazing might be different than somebody else.
That's right.
But everybody has that opportunity. And I think it's bad for us to raise our kids thinking otherwise. Like, I think that's something we lack in this world, is not giving our kids enough hope that you can accomplish whatever you want. You just got to be willing to do it, do the work for it. So that's what I would say that quote means to me, is everybody has that opportunity. Everybody has it. It's up to you.
Absolutely. But you're only going to get it done on your own, right?
Exactly.
Nobody's going to do it for you, man. Nobody's going to do it for you. The Hit Streak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. Folks, check this out. Do me a favor. I have this somewhere, but I'm missing it. How long has it been since you founded Hostage Tape?
So it's been 2.5 years.
Holy
2.5
cow.
on 3 years.
Oh my gosh. So folks, check it out. In 2023, Hostage Tape achieved 1,400% revenue growth to 14 million last year. Unbelievable. Which is, congratulations. How are we trending in 2024, baby?
Yeah. So to give you perspective, like when we launched, we did 900K, almost 1 million, which
that's awesome.
It's amazing. That's amazing no matter what. Any new business, that's amazing. But then we went from 900K to 14 million following year, which is like mind blowing. And so then this year we'll try to do about 20 million. And then our goal right now, because look, the reality is this: when you jump from 900K to 14 million, that was such a huge jump that it's pretty hard to scale, to go from like 14 and then go to like 30 or 40, like, because we scaled so much that now we're adjusting to scale, right? Because that's hard enough.
It's almost too fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost too fast, right? But it was certainly like we'd caught lightning in a bottle with what we'd found and what we did and how we implemented it. But now it's okay. What's the next frontier? And in my mind, we're really working to get into retail right now. So that you walk into Walmart, like that's our big target right now. Is our goal is to get into Walmart nationwide for next year. And so you can walk into Walmart and then you can grab some Hostage Tape for yourself, for your wife, right at your fingertips.
That's right. That's right, folks. We're hanging with Alex Neist, founder and CEO of Hostage Tape. Check them out online at hostagetape.com and on all social medias at both Alex Neist and at Hostage Tape, right? So 1,400% revenue growth. 1,400% revenue growth in 2023, going from 900,000 to 14 million. First of all, you still have all your hair; it's the same color. I'm kind of amazed at that, going through something like that, bro. Like, you've got to take something like that with gratitude, even though I'm sure there were days when it was hard, because like you were forced to face obstacles that, like, I mean, just honestly, not everybody can do. Not everybody's cut for that. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's cut for that. So I got to know, like, just. Can we go into more how? Like, this is brilliant, man. How in the world did you guys achieve that? And then what did you leave on the table when you look back? Like, you know, could it have been 1,600% if you could do it again? Like, what, you know what I mean? Talk to me a little bit of how and what you left on the table.
Yeah. So the how was, I knew that when we started the brand and we scaled it. So first of all, whenever I start something, I always start with a 2-year P&L. So I had a 2-year P&L, and that's what I would say to anybody out there that's watching or listening is, first of all, you got to have a roadmap of how to get there. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to get in the car and I'm just going to go to my final destination and not put it into Google Maps.
Yes, I say that all the time.
You got to put it into Google Maps and generally know where you're going, which is exactly what a P&L does for any new business. You can't just start a new business without a P&L, right? Then you have no idea what you're doing, where you're going with it. So I had my roadmap for 2 years. And I knew that one of the biggest keys was going to be, because we're an e-commerce brand, that it was going to be Facebook. It was how I was going to leverage Facebook ads and how I was going to scale that. That was the key. And so I'd never done Facebook ads before. In my previous business, we were selling software, so it really wasn't a Facebook ad type product. But this one I knew, okay, this was it. And so I learned how to do it myself. So that's, again, I would say another difference with me is I know that for anything that's going to move the needle, I'm going to learn how to do it. Because that's what a founder has to do. A founder has to drive the most important things first. And then when you get to a point where you can add people and you're scaling, then you can start to delegate to other people, take things off your plate. But I knew Facebook ads. All right, I'm going to learn that. And I spent about 6 months really trying to dial it in or finally clicked. So the key in any Facebook ads really comes down to creative. It's once you find the right creative that resonates, whether it's static or video, then everything can get easier, assuming you have a good product. So once we found the right kind of video that worked, then everything took off from there. For the first 6 months, we couldn't find the right video that worked. Nothing that we made worked, resonated.
Can I ask you, like, so I have an agency that we do a lot of video content. The reason that agency exists is because nobody could serve me the way I wanted to be served, right? So it ended up just being something we ended up doing ourselves. The biggest gap that I see between especially small business owners and entrepreneurs and like they're, first of all, none of them have an adequate marketing costs at all in the beginning, right? Hardly any of them do. But there's a very big gap in what it does cost to figure out what you're describing, how to get that perfect ad, that perfect commercial. Do you mind if I ask, it took you 6 months, can you give me a ballpark dollar figure of what that costs?
Well, believe it or not, like in terms of creating the creative, especially nowadays, when you're talking Meta, Facebook and Instagram, you don't need like high quality TV level type creative.
Okay.
You literally can use your phone. And that's almost what people want to see. They want to see more organic type creative. Everybody can use their phone and create stuff now that they can use. It's just understanding the recipe of, the hook, the story, and the call to action, right? It's getting those pieces right so that you're actually getting attention.
That's it.
Holding the attention and then getting them to actually like emotionally connect with them to take action to do something. Yeah. That was the key of how do I take this concept of mouth taping that most people think is crazy and actually get them interested enough that they'll take action to do it. And it's really hard to do that with static, with pictures.
Yeah.
Unless you have a really good landing page, and we weren't using landing pages at the time. And so we finally found video. And so again, to answer your point, there really wasn't that much money that was spent on making creative because it was just trying to find something that worked. And all of our creative was in-house anyways. That was the other key, was I knew that I wasn't going to hire outside creative. We were going to own it. And so my business partner, Ben, he is our creative department. That's what he does. So I wanted to own all the media, all the creative, because that was going to be who we were.
It's your IP,
and
right?
We needed.
All right, so you guys, so there's I'm hearing two things here. So first of all, getting the right recipe on the ad itself, but then getting the right recipe for getting it in front of the right people, right? I mean, I literally I didn't know that you guys were there, and then you were all I saw like that almost overnight, right? So, and I didn't mean to interrupt your story on how to scale the e-com space and stuff like that, but this is all like, dude, this is like what I get asked about the most right here, and I've literally got somebody who's walked the walk, and now is talking the talk to back it up. You know what I mean? Like 2 years in, so it's incredible. So, talk to me about you got the recipe for the videos, the ads. Now, talk to me about the targeting.
Okay. Yeah. So, part of your question too was like one of the biggest things that they get worried about is when you're doing Facebook ads and you're like, I got to spend how much money? And people don't understand the flywheel that is Facebook, right? And ads in general. And we're talking about, these are direct response ads. It's not like you're putting a TV ad up somewhere on linear TV hoping that it does something. Facebook ads are direct response ads. So if you do them right, you know that you put $1 in, you can get $2 back. That's what people need to understand, that when you do that right, your investment pays out. As long as you're studying the numbers, you're watching your numbers every day, you're using the right tools that are tracking all of that, and you're making decisions based on that data. So I knew that, I had gotten to a point where I was spending, it sounds wild, but I spent $1 million on one month. I spent $1 million on Facebook ads.
It obviously
because
worked.
I knew what I was putting in and what I was getting back out.
Yep.
And then when you're using Facebook, right? Now, granted, we use what's called broad targeting, where I'm letting Facebook, I spend so much money on Facebook that I'm letting Facebook find the best conversions for me, right? Everybody's different. If you're a smaller business and you're just getting started, you might need to use some targeting to target certain people that you think your target demographic. But for us, we spent so much money, I was letting Facebook find it. And then Facebook gets really good at finding those people. And to this day, even with as difficult as Q2 was for Facebook and all of us, Facebook is still hands down the best place to market and get customers for your product, like a consumable product that you're trying to sell.
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hider. Team Hider has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhider.com. You can make the right ad, target the right folks, and get it in front of them. But if the product don't hold up, that's a hamster wheel that never ends. And eventually, I guess you could technically run out of avatars in your market space, right? So obviously, the science holds up, right? So let's talk a little bit more. I want to go way more into the science behind nose breathing, because again, this is something that, like, you heard Mr. Miyagi alluded to it a little bit in the original Karate Kid, but like you haven't heard much about it since then, I don't think. But now it's something, because we're going to talk about what you guys are doing in with big brands like the UFC, and how every 2 seconds I see Andy Elliott with hostage tape on talking about it, right? So let's talk a little bit more about that science with the nose breathing.
Yeah. So, leading into that, it comes down to product market fit, right? Do you have product market fit, and then is it resonating with people? And getting into the science, before I even mention the science, I think one of the best things that you can see about whether it's your product or ours is if somebody uses the product and their response to it is, "This was life-changing. This changed my life," or "I've been using this now for 3 months. It's saved my marriage." Like, we're talking life-changing experiences. That's such an emotional connection to a brand and a product that if you found that, you've got something. And that was something we had found, and people were, because I experienced that. That was exactly what I experienced. And I knew that if I experienced it, I could now brand it and market it to people the right way. So let's talk about the science. Most people thinking, or listening to this, are thinking, "Okay, Alex, come on. Like, I can get more air into my mouth. What does it matter? It's the same coming through my mouth and my nose, right?" So it comes down to a couple of really simple things. Now, number one is when you breathe through your nose, believe it or not, you're actually getting more oxygen into your body. That sounds counterintuitive. Here's why it's not. So there's this concept in our body called the Bohr effect. Okay, it's a scientific principle that basically says this, that the more CO2 that we have in our body, the better our body can use the oxygen.
Got it. Because
there's a 1-for-1 exchange of CO2 and oxygen. So when I pull oxygen in, CO2 goes out. Oxygen, CO2. Okay. Now, if I'm exhaling with my mouth, I'm ventilating a lot of CO2 out more than I'm pulling in.
Got it.
Right. So now I have less CO2 in the body for all this oxygen I'm pulling in to be able to use. Versus if I keep my mouth shut, now I'm ventilating less CO2. So I have more CO2 in the body, for the oxygen to be able to use and exchange with. Thereby now, I've got more oxygen throughout my body. Really simple.
Let's go.
It sounds counterintuitive, but what I would challenge people to do is if you ever go for a walk or a jog, really focus on keeping your mouth shut. And what you'll notice is you'll actually be able to power through a jog longer because you're more oxygenated, right? Versus if you're huffing and puffing with your mouth, you're going to get dog tired really fast.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel like, I don't know how I can get through it. So now, secondly, when you breathe through your nose, you're triggering the release of nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It opens the blood vessels up and encourages blood flow, encouraging that oxygen to get out throughout the body. That also helps like reduce anxiety and help people feel calm and really good too. Thirdly is our nose is a filter. Got all these hairs and mucus in here. It's filtering all the crap out of the air. Okay. And it's warming the air. It goes through these things called turbinates. It spins around, it warms up. So when the air finally hits our lungs, it's it's humid and it is warm. Okay. That's what our lungs like. Our lungs don't like cold, dry, dirty air that's coming in through our mouth at all. So then there's less efficiency of the lungs pulling oxygen out that way.
Yeah, man.
Okay. And now lastly, here's a really interesting one. So believe it or not, when you mouth breathe, you are, especially at night when you sleep, you're actually increasing the cavities in your teeth, right? Because there's good saliva in your mouth that when you keep your mouth shut, protects your teeth, protects the enamel. But when you open your mouth and you mouth breathe at night, all of that dries up, bad bacteria forms, eats away at your enamel, causing more cavities and really bad breath. So good story for you here. So I was a mouth breather my whole life. When I was a kid, my dentist could not figure out why I had these pitted molars. He actually thought I was bulimic of all things. Like me, this athlete, like bulimic. Like it sounds weird, but he's like, I don't have any explanation for it. And it turns out it was because I was just mouth breathing my whole life as a kid. All right. So now that I'm older and I've been mouth taping, I don't do the best at getting to the dentist. Okay. So the last time I went to the dentist was 2 years ago. Okay. I recently went, and I've been mouth taping now for the last 5 years.
Okay.
And I went to the dentist recently within the last couple months. Now, keep in mind, there was a 2-year gap. Okay. I brush when I go to bed, when I wake up. I don't floss. Okay.
Same.
When I went to the dentist, they were like, they're checking everything like, wow, your teeth look fantastic. Like, they measure the gum receding and all that stuff. They're like, your gums look better than they did last time we checked them. So it just goes to show you that because now I've been mouth taping and I've been keeping my mouth shut, the healthiness of my gums and my teeth improves purely just because I was keeping my mouth shut and I wasn't mouth breathing. That simple.
That's incredible, dude. So see, folks, you can't judge a book by the cover, man. You got to do a little research. You got to do a little research.
Well, you got to do the right research too, because there's a lot of places on the internet you could look and you might think, oh, look at this. They say mouth taping's dangerous. It's not dangerous. Really not.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, I mean, there's tons of science for it. You guys have literally mastered the testimonials, right? So you got, let me put on my eyes here so I can see. You guys got my buddy Andy Elliott. And the Elliott Army.
The Elliott Army, baby. I'll tell you a funny story about Andy.
Let me tell you
a funny story about Andy. Okay, so when I met Andy, we had actually been sending tape to all his guys in the office, but it was Aaron. Right, he's the head of his whole fitness division. He was the guy who actually was using hostage tape, and all the guys started to learn about is from him.
Yeah.
So one of the guys invited me to one of their events. So we come down there.
I don't know Aaron, but he's a beast. I do know that.
Yeah, he's a beast, total beast, right? So we go down there, and I hadn't ever met Andy, Jackie. So I'm going down there like just because I know some of the guys, and I got to meet Aaron, and it was cool and all. They were big supporters of what we were doing, and there was a lunch break where Andy was in his cafeteria at the den, and my guys were like, "Hey, Andy's in the cafeteria." I was like, "Ooh, this is my chance to go meet him," because I'd never met him before. I walk in and I walk right up to him and I introduce myself. And I think within a minute of telling him who I was, I told him, I'm like, we're going to be $1 billion brand. And it was like we just had this like moment where we looked at each other, and like we just both knew.
Yeah.
And now we're partners. You're seeing him, Jackie, the whole team, sporting Hacha tape everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
They post a reel about us, almost every night, and huge partners for us, and hugely believe in what we're doing, as well as, I believe in what he's doing and what he teaches as well.
It's amazing, just because, knowing what I know about Andy and Jackie and all them is like their standards are extremely high, right? So they only work with the best. And that's a great collaboration for you guys, to say the least. You've also got another great testimonial in the form of UFC, right? So talk to me a little bit about that, and because that's a big one. That's a big one.
I got a great story. This is I love telling this story. Okay, so we are the official sleep aid of the UFC and Power Slap, by the way. But yes, the UFC is a phenomenal worldwide brand that resonates so much with our core demographic of who uses our product that it was like, this just makes sense. But I'll be honest, I wasn't a UFC fan. I'm not a combat sports guy. I'm a ball and stick guy.
Yep.
Right. And so combat sports was just very foreign to me. It wasn't really something that I ever got into. So the UFC guys, they contacted my head of partnerships, and they said they were interested in partnering with us. So I'm like, all right, well, we got to jump on with these guys. Like, this is serious, So they're like, well, we think you'd be a great partner for Power Slap. I'm like, well, this could be interesting. It could be a great introduction into UFC. Because at the time, I'm like, UFC is a big brand. That's a huge awareness play that I'm not sure we're ready for. That's a lot of money, right, to be spending on awareness when we should be focused on direct response till we get to a point where we can be the Primes and the Monster Energies and the the Manscapes of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a high bias for action. Okay. Right. High agency. I'm a high agency guy. So if I see something, I move.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally said, we're going out to Vegas. So we went out to Vegas. This was the Super Bowl weekend. So we go out there, we go into UFC headquarters, and they pitch us and they say, Alex, we actually changed our mind. We think you'd be great for the UFC. And I'm like, okay, guys, but like, let's be clear where we're at here. This is where we're at. And I'm like, these are our numbers. We're not here. So whatever you pitch me, we have to be able to work with that. Right. And what I loved about what they showed me was just the ability to use their licensing. Like, I can use UFC licensing with our product, with our marketing, everything. Mm-hmm. That to me was worth it. Mm-hmm. To be able to have Hacha's tape shown with the UFC in a Facebook ad or in Google somewhere severely lowers any sort of objection somebody might have to go, should I trust this brand? Oh, well, they work with the UFC. Okay, great. Yeah. Like, nobody would be able to do that, especially in my category.
Yep.
So like, okay, this could be a huge win if we can make this work. So we get done with the meeting and they invite us to do Power Slap, to go to Power Slap that night. And if you've never been to a Power Slap event, like, it's wild to go and actually watch these dudes stand in front of each other and slap each other. Like, it's crazy. And the whole room is filled with the who's who of the internet. Right. And it's just like VIP party that you can't get into unless you know somebody or they invite you or, whatever. So we go, and we're always branded, decked out, like you see here. And we're sitting across eye level from where Dana sits, where Lorenzo sits, Hunter, all those guys. And next to Dana, there's this like VIP of the moment seat that he always has, where these guys kept rotating. Like Travis Scott sat down, Charles Barkley sat down, and then Tom Brady walks in.
Let's go.
And I'm like mind blown because for me, Tom Brady was as big as it gets. Right. So Tom Brady walks in, sits down next to Dana. And then one of their guys comes up. He goes, all right, Alex, are you ready to meet Dana? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm ready to meet Dana. So the event actually ended, and then they took us in the back into this VIP room where everybody was in there. So we go in, I walk up, Dana turns around. He's got the big old grin on his face that he's got. And he goes, Lorenzo, where's Lorenzo at? And he's fetching Lorenzo to come over. And he goes, Alex, so we're sitting there, right? Lorenzo's sitting next to me. And he goes, look, the Hostage Tape guys are here. So Lorenzo comes over and he shakes my hand. He's like, Alex, I just want to thank you. I've been using your product now for a few months. It's been life-changing. Hunter walks over, shakes my hand, says the same thing. And Dana's like, yeah, man, you guys are killing it. I'm seeing you guys everywhere. You even sent me some. I mean, amazing. And at the time, Gary Brecka was working with Dana. That was big.
Yeah.
And Gary Brecka uses Hostage Tape, and he recommends Hostage Tape to a lot of his patients and people that he works with. And so I'm sitting there, standing in the middle of this room in front of Dana White, arguably one of the biggest, most polarizing people on the planet.
Yep.
Right. And who's connected with everybody, President Trump, Tom Brady, like all these people. And this brand that I created didn't exist 2 years ago. And now I'm talking to these guys, and it exists in the brains of some of the most powerful people in the world. It was just wild, And then a few months later, we negotiated the deal and became the official sleep partner of the UFC.
It's incredible, man. Going back to that quote, life is fair. Everybody's price is just different. Your price was, the journey in professional sports that didn't end with retirement. The building the big business that through a divorce, everything fell apart. I mean, you're paying a hefty price here to start Hostage Tape after 40.
You want to know the best part about that story that I didn't tell you?
Yeah.
Here's the best part of that story. My wife and I are back together.
Oh man, that is the best part. Congratulations, because you guys have kids.
That's part of the story. Yeah. Well, we have 2 kids. My son he's turning 15, and then my daughter is 12.
Wow.
And so to be able to get the family back together like that meant the world to me.
God is good, man. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Well, again, just going back to that quote, dude, life is fair, everybody's price is just different. If you could write it up, that's not how you would write this story, right? Because there's a lot of pain and suffering along the way, but I don't guess you'd be, I think God gives us those things to be astounded by joy later. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's the way that you have to frame these things, right? It's like in any sport, baseball, like you didn't become the amazing catcher you were if you didn't go through all the hard work and the pain to get really good at digging baseballs and blocking balls, because Lord knows how many balls you take off your forearms, right?
That's right.
That then you get really good at digging those balls out and blocking. Like it's all of that pain that you go through to understand this is going to make me the best version of who I need to be, whether it's a man, a father, a husband, a leader, whatever that is. And going through that experience helped me take that and channel that and understand this was what the universe threw at me. This is how I'm going to take it. And this is how I'm going to get better and become who I need to be.
Incredible. Well, Alex, I got to ask 2 final questions here. First of all, first one is, some could say you built a great business. You could just ride off into the sunset from here with what you guys are doing. I know that's not the case, right? So obviously what's next? And any final thoughts for all the folks that are? I mean, this has been killer, dude. I can't thank you enough. It's been fantastic. Any what's next, and any final thoughts for the listeners out there?
Yeah. Well, what's next is I mean, we're still scaling this, man. Like my goal is to be $1 billion brand, right? But we're scaling this and to get into retail, big time retail here over the next year. That's what's next, really. And the biggest thing I would say, I think I say this every podcast I'm on, and I said it earlier. My mom taught me one really important thing when I was a kid, and that was you can do anything you want. You just have to be willing to work for it. And you have to believe that anything is possible. You just got to go get it. If you want it, go get it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. And the other caveat to that I would say, I always tell my son this is, be so good they can't ignore you.
I love that. Be so good they can't ignore you. That's probably the daggum episode title, man. You know what I'm saying? That's probably so good. Be so good they can't ignore you. The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial. All right. And any final thoughts for the folks, man?
I would say this: don't let bad sleep hold you hostage.
That's another good episode title. Don't let bad sleep hold you hostage. Well, it was threatening me for the last few days, but we're not going to let that happen, man. Dude, congratulations on everything, man. It's such a great story. It's incredible. It's amazing to see people thriving in 2024, especially from a brand perspective online, because it's hard. It's very hard to do.
Very hard. Takes a lot of work, a lot of resiliency.
Absolutely, man. Well, once again, Alex, it's been the ultimate pleasure, brother. Congratulations on all your success and all that's next to come. Seriously, dude, when you're in Nashville, we got to connect, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Folks, we've been hanging with the man himself, Alex Neist, visionary, founder and CEO of Hostage Tape. You got to check it out. Get yours today. HostageTape.com, on social media at Alex Neist and at Hostage Tape. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.